Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe, from the comics, TV, and movies. We will go from the Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I am your friendly neighborhood Brent.
I'm the podcaster of Mischief Trust now.
Alliance Assemble.
Boom.
Yes, Travis is back this week. We are graced with your presence. Thank you for filling in for Chris. And, thank you to Travis Hines and David last week for filling in for us both. I had a last minute work trip come up where I left on Wednesday it was Wednesday after work, flew to Wisconsin, and 24 hours later, I was on the plane coming back home. It was worth it, but it was interesting.
And that was a funny episode because when we were planning that, I feel like, I don't know if you were, but I was really busy at work. So I felt bad for Chris because I'm busy that day. But I was talking about this day when I wasn't busy. I'd already agreed to host. But I said, what do you mean? You already said you're going to host. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm busy. Things change. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm good for that one. But I have to go back in the ether. Is that the only Marvel Alliance episode that's been hosted by none of us three? Like, it's always like, because I feel like worst case one time there was like you guys were away and then I hosted like early on with somebody like a Taylor or something. And then I know there's been variations of you with David, you with Hines, me with Hines, but I don't know if there's ever been all three of us not been able to do it.
I'd have to fact check it, but my memory says you're correct.
Yeah, it just dawned on me last week when I was listening, like, I don't think this has ever happened before. I know it's happened with DC once where there's one, and that was the train wreck that me and Taylor hosted. And
yes. But,
hashtag,
seriously, I would have rather had Hines and David do it than no show at all because, selfishly, it gave me a show to listen to. So it gave me something to listen to.
Even though some terrible takes by David. Logan nowhere. I know you support him. Logan nowhere.
I do support him in this.
He didn't even give an honorable mention. That's what really stung there too. My man David just, geez Louise. But
and he even says it in the chat right now. Remind you that Logan's not in his top 10. I get it. He's not into Professor X getting the family killed just because he wanted a home cooked meal. I get it. No big deal.
Man's got to eat. He's been.
Man's got to eat.
Caliban locked him up. They've been locked. Like Caliban, I don't know. He didn't look like the greatest cook. So he's been locked in that ball for how many years? But. Yeah, it was a fun episode, fun to listen to, and I heard in the opening the Mojoverse, which is scary, but it's a weird world where we're 2 weeks away from the X-Men 97, like X-Men revival show, like something even when Disney Plus started, I'd never thought like, oh, they're gonna start reviving these shows of old, right? I just kind of thought, oh, that's it. So like I know we were excited years ago when it was announced, but it hasn't really dawned on me that we're under 2 weeks away from new episodes and new stories in the continuity. So yeah, that's it. I'm really excited.
Yeah, so I actually just finished last night my X-Men TAS rewatch, and there's a couple of those episodes in the later seasons I've only seen once or twice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this one with Cannonball. I like the Cannonball character, but that episode was horrendous. And the animation, the voice acting, all of it was just god awful in that episode. Just skip it if you're watching. At that point, though, you've watched 4.5 seasons, but still,
because we did them and I always forget. I'm like, why do I not remember these ones as well? And it's like, oh, that's why, because there's multiple that just are not the greatest quality that make you kind of think fondly of it. But so hopefully they have a low bar as far as being better than the last season. High bar for the whole show, but the last season, I think they can top that. I got faith.
I really do like the first 4 seasons a lot.
Yeah.
There's a couple episodes in the 5th season I think I have a soft spot for the Captain America episode.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the absolute best, but I've just always liked when Wolverine and Captain America teamed up back during the war, and so it's like, I like that they put that one in there, even though I wish it had been done earlier in the show's run for better animation.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go ahead and get to the network plugs and stuff like that. We have 7 shows covering the wide range of geeks and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance on Twitter at GUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. Of course, on this show, on Marvel Alliance, we have finished the We Can Watch This All show, the Marvel Alliance MCU rewatch for the Infinity Saga. That's all out there if you want to join our Patreon at patreon.com/GUA Network. Coming up, we have Tales from the House of X. We're not going in the order of the movies. The X-Men movies came out. We're just basically hitting a couple high points before we get to the Deadpool movie. We're starting off with Deadpool. That'll come out at the end of this month. First couple movies in there will be Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and then the Wolverine and Logan after that, and some other stuff go. So we're not going in order. We're just kind of made up our own order on this one, but I am looking forward to revisiting some of these, especially the Deadpool movies. I love those movies. I treasure those movies, and I've been sitting on it waiting till closer to till Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine. But if you want to hear us talk about those shows, it's going to be patreon.com/GUA network. And then, of course, I do want to mention our sponsor.
Look at those covers.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of digging it. We have Organic Price Books. They're the official sponsor for Marvel Alliance. They sell graphic novels, omnibuy, collected editions at great discounts on everything in stock and pre-orders. You can earn rewards on every purchase that will earn you discounts, and you can use on your next order. They ship to the U.S. and internationally in secure packaging. Go to organicpricebooks.com and use the promo code MarvelGUA to get $2 off on every order. Use our referral link listed in the show notes below so they know you are a Marvel Alliance listener. Again, that's MarvelGUA for the promo code. And yes, these
I like those retros color, like yes. Classic. Those are really cool. That Fantastic Four, because that font looks similar to the one they put out. I want them to make a movie poster that looks exactly like that.
I would take posters of all three of these here.
Yeah.
The FF, Avengers, and X-Men, all looking old school. You know, back in the day when they first started. Yes, those look awesome. And there's some other cool stuff, you know, that they're highlighting right now as well. But
who is that guy on the comic with Namor up there?
Let's see right here.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's
I know it's not Martian Manhunter, but that's what he looks like.
He does look. He also looks similar to Vision, but it's not him.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd have to double check. I'd have to look it up to be sure.
It looks like they got a lot of cool classic stuff going on right now. So
I've definitely seen them before. Let's click on it and see if it tells us real quick. It does not. Maybe it does. Let's see.
Because you got Namor, you got that's not Johnny. Is that the original Human Torch?
That's the original Human Torch, okay. The one who is an android that became like the body for Vision or something like that.
Jack Kirby's Vision, the All-American Patriot, is a joyless, rile robot. Is this some sort of? It is Vision, I think. Look at his belt buckle; it has a V on it. I think it's some weird variant or like some weird version of Vision.
It's pretty awesome looking, though. I tell you that. It's a sweet cover. So, by all means, definitely check out organicpricebooks.com. And again, Marvel GUA is the code for that. So, Travis, not a ton of news this week, but we had some rumors. We had a little bit of news, but it wasn't really enough for a show. But there were some rumors coming out that we thought were interesting. Let's go ahead and talk Spider-Man 4 or whatever they're going to call it. Let's start with this question. Do you think they're going to have home in the title?
No, but I feel like I almost want them to, just a meme on me. But I think they'll set. I was gonna say I think they'd set their whole new word, but I also just wonder, like, that's a whole different conversation. I don't know if Holland's for sure doing a trilogy, so I don't know if it's like the first time where they knew, hey, we're for sure doing 3 with Tom, and this will be the theme. I feel like it's likely we'll get there, but I think you'd pick maybe a new word, but maybe they should be safe and not do that. Just make a difference. But it's definitely a subtitle. They're not using any numbers or anything like that.
There is a scenario where I think they use home.
I think so
in
too,
the title,
yeah.
But let's just get to this first point about it. Sony wants John Watts back as the director to do a multiversal type story. Presumably, this would star Toby and Andrew as well. Feige wants a new director, and he wants to go street level. If Watts is back, I could see them sticking with the home title. You know, he's got a theme going for his 3 movies. If Watts is not back, then I think Home is definitely out. I think Home is still likely to be out. I'd fiction it if it was Factor Fiction. But it's possible. So, Multiverse, street level, right there. Where are you sitting? Which one are you leaning towards? Which one do you have a preference for, if at all?
Well, it's fun. We keep talking about this, and I feel like there's every week and a half, there's like a variation of a new rumor. Because at first it was, it's grounded. Then they're going back to Multiverse. And then it was, there's a split. And now there's these new rumors of, Feige wants a new director and Sony wants Watts. And if Watts comes back, that's pretty much a sign that it's Multiverse. So I really don't know. It's funny the way that you guys were, I feel like, because we're the opposite, where you and Chris were like, with the Fantastic Four cast, like, you're just over it by the time we got to, right? Not the cast, but like, okay, I don't need any more rumors.
The rumors, yes.
Yeah. Where for me, I'm the reverse, where I guess casting rumors I like, more because I can kind of go, oh, like I think about this person in the role. But with this, maybe it's just and I have a fact or fiction later on coming up about timing with Spider-Man 4, but I just want solid details. And I'm not saying they need to come out and say, here's the villain, here's the plot, here's the writers. Just give us a date, give us a director, give us maybe even a title, but they don't have to because they've held on to the title a couple times, right? Give us the returning cast because I'm sick and tired of people being like, well, they can't bring Zendaya back. I agree, but they're gonna bring her back. She's one of the biggest.
They're completely bringing her back.
Yeah. So I just feel like everyone's just like, no, that won't happen. It's like, no, like, and I understand the point of story wise. I do want them to at least maybe act 1, act 2 to keep the MJ doesn't remember him. Story wise, I don't want her back, but you can't deny that her stardom, right? So I just want some confirmation stuff. And where I land, we've talked about this a lot in the GUA because I feel like we're passionate about this. I know Kay's passionate about this because she doesn't want to see Tobey Maguire ever again as Spider-Man. But I feel like we're all have mixed feelings on it. And I said for me, I'm like a 51-49 for the street level stuff. I would prefer the street level story, but I can't lie to you and say I don't want to see the 3 Spider-Man back together. And even if it's not that, right? Even if it's just and here's, I guess, my other point, where if it's not the 3 Spider-Man back together, I don't want a multiverse story because I don't know what other multiverse story could really appeal to me. To me, that pitch is, oh, you want to do Toby, Andrew, and Tom again? I get that. For money and fandom, I get that. But if it's just him bumping into variants of Aunt May or variants of other Avengers, like I feel like we could do that in Secret Wars or somewhere else, right? So I'm like you guys, where I want to see him in Daredevil, I want to see Fist, I want all that stuff. I want both because I do think there's more. I think people go, oh yeah, you don't want to do it too much because it'll lose its novelty. It's like they were in that movie quite a bit, but it was just the third act. It wasn't like, and people I think kind of forget this too, that Sony didn't get a chance to market that. This go round, you get to market the 3 Spider-Men together. You get to have them on Hot Ones together. You get to have them on the Tonight Show to get like, you can do all these fun things that we kind of hoped they were going to do with Marvels, and the strike happened. So I'm very torn, but I definitely just want some answers soon, especially now. What that came out
2021 was No Way Home.
We're about to be
December
3
of
years.
2021. Yeah,
we're about to be 3 years, and it was always 2 years between the Spider-Man movies, right? So we're the longest we've gone for a while with the Holland ones, right? Because it was
2017, 2019, 2021.
Yeah. So I feel like Sony wants, especially after Madam Web, they want a Spider-Man movie in the burner. So
yeah, no joke. Especially after Madam Web, we're done with that. But to be clear, I'm the guy that said I wanted Spider-Man and Daredevil to team up more than I wanted Toby and Andrew to come back. Like, that was my pecking. Don't get me wrong. I adored that movie, and it was so much fun seeing the 3 Spiders together. And I could watch the 3 of them just talk for 2 hours. No problem. So I'm kind of in a win-win situation here, provided they go with one of these. But I am in favor of Spider-Man going back to the street level. He is a character that kind of bridges the gap between your super cosmic, crazy, multiversal stuff and just pure street level gang war. He's fighting Tombstone or fighting Hammerhead on the streets of Brooklyn or whatever the case is. And the Spider-Man movies for the MCU have been getting bigger and bigger in scale, right? Like Homecoming was really just Peter versus the Vulture for a plane when you boil it down to it, right? Yeah. It was just for a plane, right? I mean, granted, it was the Avengers Quinjet, but it was for a plane. And then Far From Home comes out and he's facing Mysterio, and basically there's significantly larger implications there as, London was ultimately at risk. And then No Way Home obviously goes as big as it gets going into the multiverse. I'm ready for them to scale it back down. I get why Sony doesn't want to, because frankly, if they scale it down and it's a street level movie, is it going to make $1.9 billion? No, but you know what? It's probably not going to anyway. The novelty of seeing the 3 Spiders, it's there. We've already had it. I don't think they're going to recapture that. And I feel like Sony is just like, well, it worked this time. Let's do it again. And you kind of get it. Yes, after Madam Web made $37 at the box office, but I get it. It's just it's not what I want them to do. And then you add to it, there's the latest rumor I saw is that they might compromise. They might somehow have both of these elements in one story. I don't know how you bridge that gap. Do I have faith in the creatives to do it? Yes, because I've liked these Spider-Man movies, and despite a couple misses like Secret Invasion, I in general still have faith in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I can't in my head see how you bridge the gap between I'm going to have street level antics, hopefully with Daredevil over here, and in the same movie, Toby and Andrew are coming in, and we're going multiverse.
Yeah, it's funny because that was the current, like the newest version of this rumor was, right? Like you alluded to that, and like we said, these are rumors. These are all more like the C tier stuff. So it's not anyone like Hollywood Reporter putting out, hey, this is what's happening. But we cover them because you never know, and gives us some fun stuff to theorize. So if you were to tell me that, the only way I could work that in my head is that somehow Toby and Andrew end up back in Tom's universe, and you do a street level movie and Toby and Andrew are just there at the same time. Like it's still them versus Kingpin and other Scorpion, Tombstone, but all the Spider-Men are together. That's the only way I could really put my like P's and Q's together, like how that could work. Now, I don't know if I want that because the whole thing is, I feel like with Daredevil, we're kind of assuming he's in here. We don't know that for sure, right? That's just us
Right.
hoping.
There's a lot of wish casting there.
Exactly.
There
Right?
has been rumors like there's been random comments from including Vincent D'Onofrio
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, oh, I definitely want to take on Spider. Like, there's been random comments that allude us to that, and we know. At least, I guess we don't know, but precedent says somebody from the MCU is going to have a significant role in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So precedent said so. So many of us are just hoping it's Charlie Cox.
And much like the MCU has done before, like you see Charlie Cox in the first one, you could assume, hey, he might have a bigger role in the next one, right? Because there's a relationship established there, etc. So that would be my worry, though, of my pitch of, hey, if that's how you do a grounded multiverse film, I feel that Daredevil would be in it to a very minor degree or not in it at all, which is not what I want. I feel like you can't have your cake and eat it too. I said, we've talked about this before. My pitch is you do the grounded movie and the end credit is a Toby or Andrew showing up saying, hey, I need your help. And then right away you can build that excitement for, okay, we are going to do this again. And you can promote it years out. You kind of have a roadmap for people knowing what's going to be next. And then you get a nice little break because I feel like it's almost like Homecoming where, hey, we're going to do one more movie that's more street level, more smaller, and then you build back up again, right? It's not going to be right away. Because I agree with you, that is the tough thing for Sony. I get as a business, how do you look at these movies that have gone to be the Spider-Man's always been a big blockbuster, but really big implications, multiverse stuff, Avengers level threats with Mysterio and stuff. So that's where it's like, how do you? As much as I don't trust Sony, I can understand Sony's pull back to we want to do the next Spider-Man and just have it very small scale, and them go, well, that's great for you guys at the MCU, but for us trying to make the money, where's the pitch? And I've always said this too, there's nobody on this earth that can argue that the movie with Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox would make more than the one with Toby and Andrew, in my opinion.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where it's like Sony will always have a leg up on that argument of like, give us something better than this pitch. And that's a tough one because like you said, they're probably looking at that 1.9 being like, we could do that or something similar, but you can't always, right? Captain Marvel, Aquaman, we're going to find out this year with Joker, same thing of these are sequels to billion-dollar movies. Okay, what's the retention rate? I think Joker will do well, but maybe Joker will end up like Aquaman and Captain Marvel where people will go, I really only need the first one and that's it. And I don't think that's the same with Andrew and Toby, but I think it could be a lesser degree where, okay, it was great and I'll come to see it, but I don't need it as much. I might not do double screenings, or it might not be, oh, we got to go see if they're there. So it's an interesting kind of dilemma there supposedly, and we'll see. But I think it'll be a disappointment if Tom Holland ends his run and we don't get him in Daredevil or some sort of grounded effort together. I would feel like, man, that was a missed opportunity there. Even if you have to add somebody else, if it's Daredevil and someone, and maybe that is, like I said, maybe that is the meeting. It's Daredevil, Spider-Man, and another Spider-Man. I don't know. I don't know if it's Miles too. That we've talked about that. We keep hearing Amy Pascal
There's
like,
been a few rumors there. They want to bring Miles into the live action world
after the next two. So it's like, could that be something? Where is that a multiverse thing where they do a sort of, even though that's not really what I want, because we introduced Donald Glover, and I feel like, oh, you already got the perfect setup right there, right? If he met Uncle Aaron, and so it's interesting. But I really hope we get some firm facts soon, because like I said, we're coming on 3 years by time, and I think it's like very optimistic if it comes out next year. And I don't even know if it should come out next year. And how stacked it is.
And apparently that's what Sony wants, is for the movie to come out next year. And if they haven't even agreed on an approach to the movie, I assume multiple scripts are in development. I don't know, but I assume like there's a script going this way that's in development. There's a script going that way that's in development. Maybe there's even a third one in development, bridging the two. But I love your idea of a street level story with Daredevil and Kingpin, and maybe let's throw in Punisher. I love that idea. And at the end, a tag of Toby or Andrew coming in and saying, "Hey, we need your help."
Yeah.
And the thing is, like Thomas Hayden Church, Sandman recently said like he's convinced that they're doing another Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. Now, if you actually listen to the whole quote, I think it's pretty speculative on his part. He doesn't know it. Definitely some of those headlines were misleading when you actually look at the full quote and they hear him say it. But maybe just throwing this out there again, talk about wish casting and speculating and willing into the universe. Your scenario of street level, Toby shows up at the end or pull in Tom, and they do another Spider-Man movie starring Tobey Maguire that Tom is involved with. Yeah. I'd be down for that. I'd be okay with that. Even if Feige wasn't as involved in it at this point, I would be okay with it, because while I don't necessarily have the most faith in Sony to make a live action Spider-Man movie that doesn't involve Spider-Man, they do still have their creative hand in all the live action Spider-Man movies. It's not just Feige. I'd be down to see what they would do with Tobey Maguire coming back. But man, how are they supposed to make a 2025 release date? I don't think it's possible.
And like I said before, I don't even know if I want them to. We talk about all the time in GWA that next year's stack with Marvel, with Batman, like supposedly, which I think both the Batman 2 date's not looking as great. Just I feel like talk about something like Spider-Man 2, a movie we've just heard nothing about that's supposedly supposed to start shooting here soon. It's like we don't have a cast, we don't have anything, we don't have sets being built. But if it were to, it's like you got a Superman movie, a Batman movie, a Jurassic Park movie. I'll say 3 other MCU movies because like Blade's not coming out.
Blade's
right?
not
like,
coming out. Right?
Yeah, we can just call that one.
We all agree Blade's not coming out in November, but
that's just a placeholder date. And
you still have Thunderbolts, Cap 4, and Fantastic Four.
And not that it has too much to do with it, but when does the third Avatar is supposed to come out in 2025 as well? And I feel like that December slot that worked out for No Way Home, that was fantastic. Like obviously it was more not near the end of COVID, but a little bit better, and obviously there were spikes after. But that's where I'd say, okay, maybe if they want to relive that, right? Like we're gonna have it out for the very last month of next year. Like, okay, maybe there's a scenario where that could happen, but Avatar's out. You're not going to release it during Avatar time because that's Disney's biggest property right now. Like that that's what I think third, whatever. It's in the top 3. They have Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. Pretty impressive. So Disney's like going to want to have all focus on that. So I think my other point that I've brought up in GA and I brought up in Geekverse that I'm very curious to see is more details on this and just more details on Sony in general after Venom, because we've always had, okay, Venom's happening, oh, and then they're doing Morbius, and then they're doing Venom 2. We've hear like, oh, Hypno Hustler and El Muerto are still in production, but I want to affirm, like, are we still? Yeah, they're not.
Officially, maybe they are, but I bet you they're already canned.
Yeah, but I feel like this is the longest we've gone in a bit of not having one really upcoming. So I'm very curious, even Sony, if they're going to shift. And we've talked about this all the time. We talk about this again in our group chat of like, what is the deal with the whole Peter Parker Spider-Man thing, right? Is that a thing that's not they have some sort of handshake deal as like, hey, let's not do a Spider-Man movie while we're working together.
So I'm convinced that is the case.
I agree with you. Convinced. Yeah. So I feel like Sony in general with Spider-Man 4 and their Spider-Man properties, even Beyond the Spider-Verse, the new date, TBD. They don't even have an official date for Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Good, that movie needs time. But...
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying a rush, but just like all the Spider-Man stuff has a lot of question marks around it. I'm not saying that's all like bad and doom and gloom. I'm just very curious once we get some answers here. And maybe I think with them, they're really sitting on the results of Kraven and Venom to see how they're moving forward in general as well. Because I feel like...
Which are both this year.
Yeah, like even if I think if Venom 3 hits again, they'll still be convinced that, oh no, there's something to do here. But if that, let's say, underperforms and Kraven, which I don't think is going to do well, kind of eats it, I think they're really going to have to think, okay, what's happening? And again, one more question. Doesn't supposedly Tom Holland have like one more MCU appearance in that last deal that we've never gotten?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's a long time from 2021 to now. Maybe they're just saving them for both Avengers. So like I said, I just have lots of questions about what's going on with Sony and Spider-Man, Well, and so far Sony has not been able to build a universe, right? They've definitely built a franchise with Venom. The first couple Venom movies combined for 1.2, 1.3 billion, something like that combined. That's good money there. Even if Venom 3 does close to what Venom 2 did, like that's a successful franchise. Oh yeah, that's
but Morbius was a huge miss. Madam Web somehow managed to miss by even more than Morbius did. And Kraven, I don't know. Obviously, I have my own biases there because I thought the trailer looked god awful. But
Mhm.
I'll just say I don't have faith in Craven at this point at all. Venom 3, am I going to enjoy it? I don't know, but at least I believe the general audience will. I
Yeah.
don't believe that. So if Craven misses, even if Venom 3 hits, Tom Hardy said this is it, right? Now, you got to assume he'd show up for Secret Wars or something like that.
Yeah.
But if he's done with the straight Venom movies after that, what I don't know what they're going to do, and maybe that's why they want to have a 2025 Spider-Man movie, because they're worried that they have 3 movies in their whatever they're calling their Spider-Man universe now, and 2 of them are going to bomb.
Yeah, I think that's very realistic as far as they want to it's still business at the end of the day, right? And Sony they still got good IP, like Ghostbusters is coming out in a bit. So it's not like they're in dire needs, but at the same time, you always want to be, in the black. You don't want to be, well, whatever. These Marvel movies aren't doing the greatest. We'll figure it out. And I don't think any of us are confident Beyond is coming out next year, right? That'd be the thing.
No.
If Beyond was coming out, you'd say, oh, well, they got some time because that'll probably be a hit, May or crossed it very, very well. So I think for them, it's like they have no movies next year. And also, like, that would be coming on 4 years of no Spider-Man. I think you got a good theory there. Is like that's why they want these out. Maybe this doesn't happen. Maybe it's because what's Venom's current release? Is it the fall?
It's in November.
Yeah, but I guess I forgot. I was gonna say maybe it gets pushed, but again, 2025 is already very packed. So it's like, what do you push it to, right? So
Right.
I don't know.
And
So
that's I mean, with how packed 2025 is, I don't want Beyond to come out next year. Give
No.
those teams more time. Put it in 2026. We've already got 3 Marvel movies for sure, plus whatever happens with Blade, which again none of us believe it's actually going to come. But we have 3 Marvel movies for sure. Superman's coming out, right? Batman 2 is supposed to come out. Like, the geek world is solid, right? Like, was Avatar 3 for all those people? It comes out at the end of this calendar year. Most of its runtime will actually be in 2025.
yes,
It's a stacked year. You mentioned Jurassic Park. We don't need Beyond to come out. We don't need whatever this Spider-Man 4 movie is to come out. And I don't know. I guess maybe they decide to push Venom, but I don't know when they'd release it if they did.
yeah. I don't think that's what I thought at first. I thought, oh, there's a possibility, but I don't think they would. I think they'd get it out there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we get for news wise and like, again, I don't think they get any confirmation. I have a fact or fiction about this later, but I don't think if we don't hear anything to July, you won't hear anything at Comic-Con or D23, because we've talked about that before, that you don't really get the Spider-Man, Tom Holland stuff there, right? He's in the Avengers stuff, but that's not up for Kevin Feige to announce unless there's some deal made, but that's a Sony property and it's a Sony movie technically still, right? So
Right.
that's why we never don't bank on, oh, maybe Comic-Con we're gonna get some big announcements. Like, that's
It won't
not
be.
gonna
It
happen.
won't be during Marvel's Hall H panel.
Exactly, right? So yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take our first ad break. So, listeners, please remember that we don't control the volume. They do sometimes come in quite loud. So, I'm going to give you a 3 count. You can turn down your volume if you want. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, let's do a couple more rumors, mainly because I think they're interesting. These are both from Daniel RPK. So, as always, I do
Your
have
favorite.
I have my grain of salt out because that guy throws everything at the wall just to see what sticks. Call it what it is. But I think these are interesting. So, first of all, a female-led Spider-Man animated film is in the works. This would be a separate project from the previously announced Spider-Woman one, which I believe was live action. Why it's called a female-led Spider-Man animated movie, I don't know. I'll just call it a Spider-Woman animated movie is in the works. Obviously, the first person that comes to mind in this would be Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen, right? Like, that seems the most obvious.
Well, and I feel like they've even said, I don't think they've outright said, oh, we're doing a film, but I feel like said, like, there's more. They do that kind of producer speak. Well, there's lots of stories to tell with Spider-Gwen, and she was a big hit. I feel that lots of people really loved that opening, and I feel like that opening alone showed you could get an hour and a half movie out of Spider-Gwen's universe. There's tons of stuff, even without multiverse. And who knows what that means? Maybe that doesn't just mean, like, just Spider-Gwen. They could do a female big team up and everything, right? And that's where there was this. There's also like that Villains of the Rumor stuff going on. I'm much more hopeful, as long as the animators are treated well, I'm much more hopeful for the stuff I hear about the animated stuff than I am live action. Live action stuff, it's tough for me to get excited about right now. Even the TV show stuff like Silk that we heard rumors about, where it's like, okay, I'm not excited about that anymore. But the animation stuff, you tell me, hey, there's a female, Spider-Woman film coming animated, great. There's a villain one coming, great. Whatever you want to do. I don't know. I do genuinely feel that after we get this trilogy, I don't think they're going to do more with Miles. Like, he could pop up in a film, but I don't think you'll get like a fourth Spider-Verse. I feel like they're going to cap it at the 3 for now. Never say never, but I'm kind of down for all these things. Like I said, as long as we don't hear any more reports of people being overworked and stuff like that,
Sure,
which
sure.
happens with all these companies, right? So I just want those people to be looked after well, but then at the same time, all these things would intrigue me because those two movies they've already put out are some of the best comic book films, just even films animation wise, that are out there.
So Spider-Gwen would be absolutely be my first choice. Like I
Mhm.
want to put that out there. But there is one other scenario that I think would be potentially really cool, and that would be Mayday Parker from what was originally the MC2
uh,
universe. Originally she was a what if character, and then it became the MC2 universe. If they were to do one focus on her, she was Spider Girl for a while. Yes, her dad was alive, but he wasn't active as Spider Man for the vast majority of that run. I would be very interested in that as well. The other rumor is an animated film with villains as the leads. Now, I have two scenarios for this that I would like, but what do you think about a villain led Spider Man related movie?
one before you said Mayday, I thought you were gonna say Madam Web because you said and
No,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
what are you
no.
trying to pitch here? The villains one, that's what interests me. To me, I would make it very tongue in cheek, is kind of like like about being losers. Like I would take the way now.
Like the superior foes of Spider Man?
Yeah, like the way, of course, Spot looks like and beyond, he's going to be like a much bigger threat. But that vibe that he had in Across the Spider Verse, where he's just kind of like a nothing villain that Spider Man just like, oh, you're just kind of take up time of my day. I would love something, a band of villains that just kind of suck, because I think people would jump right away like, oh, it's gonna be a Sinister. We're finally getting a Sinister Six animated movie, get something really cool, which yeah, I'm fine for that. But I think you could do something like that, something in the vein of like what Spider Pig is, like very kind of self-deprecating bottom, and because there's some like you get Jackpot in there, like you could get some characters that are, it's very much like what Lego Batman did with like when they brought him
Yeah.
like Condiment King and all the Kite Man. Like I think that's what you go for. Is maybe you throw in one. Maybe the leader is it's a Doc Ock, it's a Craven, it's a Norman Osborn, something like that. But I'd love it if it was a very they're already comedic, but just overall comedic tone, and maybe it's a villains to heroes sort of thing, right? Something like that, or I don't know. But this one does intrigue me because I'd like to see the roster and just what the pitch is, and I hope it's not just make a cool film about villains, which like that can be, but I think there's lots of potential to do with these characters that we're not seeing the live action stuff. So
Have you read Superior Foes of Spider Man?
only one issue a long time ago, but I know of it.
Sounds like you would probably enjoy it
Yeah.
based on what you were thinking
Okay.
right there. Definitely in your wheelhouse. The
I'm adding it to the
well,
list right now.
I'm gonna tell you the second thing I thought of first, which would basically be Superior Spider Man.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
It is Doctor Octopus. You still get to have Spider Man, but it is technically villain led. I love the Superior Spider Man story, so I think that would be interesting as well. But the other idea that I really like, and I don't even care who the villain is almost, is just a random Spider-Man story from the villain's point of view. Right up to,
Mm.
they're planning their heist or their caper or whatever their take over the world scheme is. They're planning everything, and then watch it all fall apart as the hero comes in and takes them down. I can't think of any movies like that we've had, that we've really had, where it was, at least not comic book movies, where it was the villain's point of view and the villain lost. Like,
Yeah.
just keep it all. I mean, yes, Infinity War, yes, it's technically Thanos' story, but he won, right? Like,
Yeah.
he won Infinity War. That's not what I'm looking for. I think that would be a fun movie as well. But Superior Foes of Spider-Man definitely would lead itself to the comedic side of things. That's probably a better way to go about it. You can make it a little more family friendly that way as well, which for animation is a good thing, just because it's going to open up your potential audience. It's
Mhm.
good idea there. I think you had a good one.
And I think I like that idea too of like from the villain's point of view they have to lose. I think that way you have to at least go a sympathetic villain though. You can't go like like a Carnage or something, right? Not that they
Right.
would, but
Yeah.
you'd have to go somewhere where you can, the classic Thanos thing, right? Of okay, from you can see from this point of view, why would we cheer or root for said character, right? And I think that also has lots of potential. So
Like a Sandman who's trying to get money for his kid or whatever
yeah,
like that. Something, yeah, definitely need to be sympathetic.
that's what it is. They do an anime movie about Thomas Hayden. That's the movie he's talking about. He thinks it's a live action one. No, they're gonna do a retelling of Spider-Man 3 from his point of view. You're gonna get to see him gun down Ben Parker again. And no,
Of
they're not.
course,
They're not.
of course.
They're not gonna go that route. But yeah, I'm not sure what they could do. There's like a small part of me that, not that it would be a villain led movie, but I was like, man, could you switch this and do like a Clone Saga and make it like a Scarlet Spider or Ben, or like a Ben O'Reilly's a bit more villainous because he believes he's the real Peter Parker. That was just me head spinning of like, okay, what could it be just overall? But I think they would go for some more names and some more kind of IP heavy characters. So but yeah, I'm hoping for the RPK realm. These are ones that are actually happening, and so like even if it's an idea, because I'd like to see some of these pitches and see what they got cooking up there. So
Next up, Venom 3 behind the scenes image, hinting at the movie's timeline. Basically, I think it actually came from Tom Hardy. I could be mistaken about that, but he is absolutely in it. We did get like one behind the scenes set photo of him, and he's in the same outfit at which that he was in Spider-Man No Way Home's tag with, where he was at the bar. And basically, he's at the bar at the end of the movie, and then he ports back to his Earth, leaves a little bit of piece of himself behind, a little piece of symbiote. It's in the same movie, so there's not much on this, but I do think it's interesting. It's likely to pick up right where that left off, and I wonder if we are likely to get any kind of commentary from Venom about what going to that universe was like.
because we've seen those photos, like you said, of him wearing that, so I feel like you'd have to say something. I wonder if he gets any commentary or if it is just like a throwaway joke, like a one liner. You say the joke and then you move on with the story. Because same thing, not that I'm curious, because I don't have too much enjoyment with the Venom films, but I have been surprised that's another one where I feel like we haven't heard much. Where Carnage, it was like, okay, we knew from that first movie they were doing Carnage, and then the film was called Let There Be Carnage, so we knew like, okay, we got a sense of what's going on here. Where we've seen actors cast, but we haven't even seen, to me, like the top tier scoopers say, oh, and they're playing this character, they're playing this character, and we haven't even heard. I feel like rumors from C tier scoopers like what the plot of this movie is, right? So it really could be anything right now. I think, like I said, that's what I predict. They will mention it, they will say something, but it'll be more of a throwaway joke, and then they'll kind of move on with the story, and I guess maybe give Tom Hardy a swan song. I guess, if that's what you want to call it.
I guess, yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's the last time we'll see Tom Hardy. I feel like you could get him again at some point and everything. But I also don't take it. I did love that I saw lots of just like people surfing for gifs and retweets of being like, oh, this means that Tom like Holland has a good chance of being this, because it's like that's like I don't expect Tom Holland to be in this whatsoever. This one, I feel like Tom Hardy is hoping for it to happen, but that end credit we got of Spider-Man 2 when he's on the TV screen, I think that's the amount of Tom Holland you get inside the Venom movies. Sadly for that, so
Yeah,
thankfully.
You're probably right about that. Okay, let's go ahead and take another ad break real quick. So again, remember, we don't control the volume, so listeners, go ahead. We're going to give you a 3 count if you want to turn that down. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. Okay, a couple other little stories that came out. Let's go the X-Men animated series. We got some episode titles for that. Another awesome poster. It looks like the TV guide. They're nailing it on these posters.
Yeah.
The big thing is March 20th, 2-episode premiere, right? Episodes titled To Me, My X-Men, which I absolutely love that phrase, and then Mutant Liberation Begins. Anything, there obviously is one specific thing we've brought up in our chat about the titles. Other than that, any titles that stand out to you about anything?
No, again, I don't know if you've talked about in this show, but I really appreciate that they're doing the 3-parter as a finale, because that was a big thing with the original series. They did a lot of multi-part episodes, so I like that, and I feel like that's a fitting finale. It just kind of gives it more stakes when you see 3 parts. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, it just feels like, oh, okay, we got some meat going on here. So other than the obvious what we're going to talk about, nothing stood out as far as, okay, this could mean this could mean that. Like, there's what is the one about the it's sun or heat? There's something to do with like a warmth title, right?
Fire Made Flesh.
Yeah, so I feel like that's probably where you get
Sunspot.
introduced. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Sunspot. So I feel like there's a couple of those where you go, okay, this is where you're gonna get something equivalent to that. But no, but I agree with you. I really like the just the retro nature they're taking with this so far. So
There's the episode on April 10th is called Remember It. I wonder if that is Gambit because of how many times he says the name is Gambit, remember it. Like that's the first thing that came to mind there.
yeah, it could be some, those thieves. What are they? The Guild of Thieves
The
pop
guild,
back
yep.
up, and his almost wife is there. So that's actually a good shout out. Or it's just like a Gambit based episode, which I hope they also do those too, because they did that in the original series as well, where you'd have team
Ooh.
episodes, but then you'd have here's an episode just strictly about Rogue, strictly about Storm. So I think that helps, especially for there's going to be some people that maybe won't go back and watch this. They'll see this and then they'll go watch the other show. So you still need
Hopefully.
you still need to introduce some people to it. So
Okay, so let's talk about April 3rd and April 17th. Again, the Remember It episode was April 10th. The episode titled April 3rd is Motendo, I guess is how you say it. Motendo / Life Death Part 1.
yeah.
And then a week later is the Remember It episode. And a week after that is Life Death Part 2. What is going on that they have it scheduled that way?
So my only theory is because we've seen. I feel like my theory is wrong, so this is why I don't know. But we've seen in the trailer there's that episode clearly where they play basketball together, and then when they walk in the mansion, Magneto's there, right? So that was my theory. Maybe it's not the basketball, but I thought, is this episode like a half where the first half is something that I would love? I've always said this, where one of my favorite things in the MCU ever is just Avengers 2 when they're having the party scene. I've said that I would take a full, they would never do it, but if they announced, hey, we're doing an hour and a half movie of that dinner party scene and just
Yes.
them hanging out, I would take that. So that's what my thoughts was. Is there a half of this episode where it is just like the X-Men playing basketball, like doing something fun, and then the back half is a more serious cliffhanger? Or to me, is it the first half is this is an episode of the X-Men, and then the second half is a different character, like a Charles Xavier, like maybe I won't spoil it, something that some like Sinister's doing, something that's apart from the X-Men. So that's why you can pick it up 2 weeks later, right? Because it'd be weird to have a cliffhanger part 1 and then next week the X-Men just kind of annoy it or ignore it. It's kind of like if you read the original back in the days, the Batman animated series viewing order, it sometimes got like put that wrongly. So it's like you got the Cat and the Claw, and then you got like 3 episodes, and then part 2 was there. Where now on DVDs and stuff they fixed it. So I don't know if they're being like really meta. I don't think they're doing
I
that.
hadn't considered that. That's
I don't know if they're doing
wow.
that, but that's my theory. Is either it's something fun and then more serious. That's why it's 2, or that Life Death, right? That's like some character that's nothing to do, maybe Cable, some character that has nothing to do with the current team that they can kind of tell the story. If I had any theory, it'd be Sinister based, especially with Jean's baby. We know there's stuff all around that. We know what's going, like there could be
Sure.
something more. So I think it could do something, give us a peek into what's really the deal with Jean Grey and this baby. So
Sure. I mean, we know who the baby is. At least we know who the baby is from the comics. So I hadn't considered Charles Xavier though. Last we saw him, Lilandra was taking him to the Shi'ar Empire to heal his wounds. Right.
he's on his deathbed.
He basically
life death.
said, Jubilee said, "Hey, is he ever going to come back?" And he says, at least in spirit, I will. Like alluding to he may never come back, but. Maybe I could see that, like, check in with Professor X in the second half of that episode, do whatever Remember It is, and then we're going to circle back to Professor X actually coming back to Earth and meeting back up with the X-Men in Life Death Part 2. That's going to be my official prediction. So, Amari Daniels or someone who's good at remembering that stuff when we say those things, he can bring that back up later.
And I don't mind that. My only pushback about that is I would like that to be later in the season, because I would love the majority of this season not to have Xavier, or at least Xavier with the X-Men, right? If we get flashes of him with Alondra out in space, that's fine. But I'd love to see, how does the X-Men operate? Scott, Storm, now you got Magneto. If he's back in like episode 5, I just feel like if you were to watch the show together, it's like he's almost dead and then he's just gone for like 3 episodes.
They kind of pull a Mandalorian Grogu scenario where he's gone, but 5 minutes later he's back. Yes.
Yeah, but it is right away. It's funny that I feel like between RGA and then the GV Discord, the second those titles drop, everyone's like, what is the deal with this this part 2 part 1 thing. So I think that was almost like, it probably was done on purpose, but it was smart because it got people, the diehards, talking of, okay, something's not right here, in a good way of, we were trying to figure it out. So it gets me more excited for when we get to episode 3 now, because I'm anticipating, okay, what's going on.
Really, life death being in this is why we're talking about it. If they hadn't done
Right?
that, this doesn't even make the cut this week. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The last news story, it's at least for me personally, doesn't really affect me, but it's a small one. Falcon and Winter Soldier and Moon Knight are both coming to physical release, releasing April 30th. March 12th next week, you'll be able to pre-order them. Of course, the assembled, the making of each of those is going to be on their special features and various gag reels and deleted scenes, things like that. Any interest for you in buying these?
No, I'm like you were there. I still do buy the occasional physical thing, but I feel like I've kind of gone to like I'm a one a year. Like last year was the Batman. That's one of my favorite movies. Okay, I want the steel book, but that's kind of it. But I'm happy they do it because I know there's people that do want these things. They do, the collectors. And I also, the only reason why I think I've been sometimes tempted is the last run and this run, they've done a good job of making those steel books look really cool. That's something where it's not just like the classic poster and it's just a steel case version. You're like, okay, this is fine. But they've gone out of their way to make the art look really, really nice. So I'm happy they're doing it. It's kind of like, I'd say, why not? As long as they're, and maybe this is at least some good sign for the last time they did it, that enough people bought it that they felt, oh, this is worth to do for some other shows. I'm not sure. Maybe there was already a deal set in place that we're going to do like the first run of Disney Plus shows as Blu-rays and, steelbooks and stuff. But I'm happy for the people that want that, because I know it does suck for, if you want physical media, it is we're completely going the opposite route, right? Of that,
especially Disney. Well,
yeah,
up until recently, because Disney now has a deal with Sony, where Sony is going to be producing and distributing Disney's physical media going forward. I don't know exactly when that starts.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's for these two. But I'm happy this exists for the people who want physical media. You want to go through all that hassle and everything, putting it, I'd say hassle like it's hard, but you want to go through all that setup, putting it in a Blu-ray and everything. For me, I like just firing up Disney Plus, playing the episode I want, great. But it's cool that these exist for that. But can we at least release them in order, please? Can we just do it in order?
No, why? Because why do you think that is? Do you think that's like they're gonna get to an event? Like, what? Like,
I mean,
what did they do? They did WandaVision, Loki, and then they're going to Falcon Winter Soldier.
And
right?
it kind of made sense because Loki came out shortly before Loki season 2 started,
Yes.
so you kind of get why they did that one. But yeah, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're just skipping Hawkeye and going to Moon Knight. Like, yeah. I don't understand the order of. Oh, and they also skipped What If season 1 was in there as well. Like, just can we just put them in order? That's it. That's all I ask.
I'm curious. Hawkeye, I could see getting it. Hawkeye, I agree with you, but I bet they could maybe wait till Christmas, because the steelbook could have some like Christmas theme stuff. So maybe they feel like, hey, if this is on the shelves during December, it sells better. I didn't even think about that, because I thought it was just a no. I'm very curious if What If gets that, because that's just animation. It's not like MCU proper in a sense, right? Where it is like the multiverse, but it's not the sacred timeline. So I didn't think about that. I'm very curious to see if What If gets it. That'd be. I'm excited to keep my eyes on that now. So
Omari in the chat mentions Werewolf by Night. Yeah, the Guardians Holiday Special. Would they do it for the special presentation?
I don't think so.
I mean, if they get to a point where like that's all that's left, I think they would, out of a completionist standpoint.
I guess, yeah. Those are just so short that it's just I would have felt like if we had a couple more special presentations, you could get like a collection.
Collector's pack, yeah,
that'd be cool. Of like Werewolf by Night, Guardians, and something else.
Like one other one.
Yeah, but like for I know they're both around 40 minutes, so I just feel like you got to have some good special features there. Like you said, of course, the completionist, but for me, it's like I'm thinking about other people. Like, are they gonna buy the Werewolf by Night?
Maybe they need to stick I Am Groot on there also. Pad the runtime by 10 more minutes.
Yeah, you could, yeah. So.
Okay, let's go ahead and go on to feedback. First, feedback and questions. First up from David. With Morbius now being added to Disney Plus, how long until Madam Web makes her Marvel Legends debut?
One, David should apologize for last week. You had your chance at Mulligan. You didn't take it. That's okay. I guess because Morbius came out was it January or February?
It was recent, within the last couple of weeks, I thought. So I'm
No,
gonna say
sorry.
February.
Sorry, I meant the actual theatrical
Oh, the
release.
actual movie? I don't know. It was last. I'll find out.
I think it was in the first half, right? I feel like it was a January, February movie.
Feels like it was a long time ago. April 1st, 2022.
Oh my god.
April 1st,
okay.
2022.
So that kind of meets as like we're getting it kind of in the start of March, end of February, so it's like almost like 10 months. So I think it could be something like that, because isn't a thing where Netflix gets a run for it a little bit and then it ends up on Disney? So
which tells me Netflix didn't want it.
yeah. So I'd say maybe at least 8 to 10 months, but I don't know much longer it has in theaters wise. So yeah.
Is it even still there? Like, I'm seriously asking, like, at this point, it's got to be down to just 1 or 2 showings a day. It doesn't have much more time in theaters.
The only thing, I don't know why, and maybe I could be wrong about this too, I feel like Netflix could maybe be more interested in Madam Web, because I think with those thumbnails, you could make it look almost like a girl gang rom-comish movie. Like, you know how Netflix always has some very strange thumbnails where
Sure.
there's actors that only have 1 or 2 scenes in a movie, but when they blow up, they're the thumbnail of the movie. I feel like they might make it where people go, oh, I know Sydney Sweeney, and they'll click on it instead of going to pay $10 at the theater. Where Morbius, I don't know if people are clicking on like, oh, I got to see the Jared Leto vampire movie, but yeah, for me, I just checked. So for Madam Web, only had 1 screening today at my theater at 9:30 p.m. So for me, it's down to the 1 screening a day.
On Saturday, it's got 5 at mine.
Nothing
which
on Friday?
honestly is more than I thought. Well, I didn't look, but I wanted to look at a full weekend day. But it's more than I thought it would be, because like Kung Fu Panda is out, and Dune Part 2 is
still doing
out,
well,
and Dune's been doing really great, and the Bob Marley movie still has been doing pretty good, and like it's good. There's lots, actually, like several other things to go against it. So counter programming, I guess. Shoot, Wonka is still out as I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was gone. Poor Things still has a couple showings at my theater on Saturday, and it just came to Disney Plus, which is good. I can finally watch it. No spoilers, please. But
you're watching Poor Things.
We wanted to go see it. We just never could make it work timing wise.
Whoa, get ready.
I've heard some stuff. But
it's a weird movie. Get ready.
That's fine. I've heard some stuff about it, but yes, we're gonna watch it. Just no spoilers, please.
No, of course. I can't wait for that.
But it is like we both my wife and I wanted to see it. Timing didn't work, and frankly, I'll bend over backwards to get the Marvel movies in, because I kind of need to. Yeah. I'm not going to bend over backwards for like anything else. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And when I don't have someone to watch the kids, well, I'm not taking them to Poor Things based on what I've heard about it. Yeah. So definitely not. All right, next question from Anthony. It says, Bob Iger said that they quietly killed some projects. What Marvel projects do you think they could... You know what? Let's just table this question. I should have thought of this ahead of time. Anthony, we're going to talk about this question in our credit scene today. We're going to talk about this question later, because let's be honest. So, Phil...
He set us up for that. He must have knew I was on the show. But,
From Phil, why does Travis have the absolute worst takes when it comes to Marvel? I honestly don't know why he said this, but he did laugh with it. So, hey, there's that. Probably has to do with Logan.
Is it though? Because I feel like I'd have to talk to Phil. Maybe I'll talk to him next time on Vodka Stream. Because me and Phil are like oil and water. I have no problem with Phil personally, but our likes and whatnot completely different as far as range. But I feel like Logan's in Phil's ballpark, so I'm kind of surprised about that, because I feel like he'll say that, but then when we talk, there's multiple things we do like together on a very similar realm. So maybe if he just, and I also don't think like. I think with you guys, you could say, hey, Logan's not my top 10, but you could see why it's in my top 10 or someone else's top 10, right?
Yes.
It's not like I'm out here fighting for Morbius saying, like, how come Morbius isn't in your top 10, guys? Come on. Like, I think it's not like a hot take, but, I'd had to have a specific thing, but, I feel like I have, like, Endgame's my favorite MCU movie. I feel like that's a very majority-based pull. Like, I don't have like
my Civil War love is probably a hotter take than your Logan love. Like my Civil War love is, I bet. And
That's
so, like, it's
interesting.
really not a hot take that you love Logan. And yes, it is obviously a good movie. All joking aside, it's just not a top 10 Marvel movie.
Yeah, and I
But
feel like, and I don't like doing this because I feel like Logan is the go-to for anti-MCU people, which I don't like. People go,
it
"Oh,
is.
this
It
is the
is.
Marvel movie I like." So that's not why I like Logan. I like it because it is different, but like, there's great acting. It's a great character piece. It's very dramatic, you know.
The acting in that movie is fantastic, and if Daphne King were to come back, I would be very excited to see her back as X-23. Yes,
So I'm
I know
sorry,
it's
Phil, you had
been
to
rumored
sit
or
with me in this
whatever,
episode. Yeah, well, she posted a set or she posted the set photo for them on Logan this week on her Instagram.
yes,
So that's like,
I heard about that.
if they're asking Vinny Jones to come back,
Allegedly.
he said no. They're asking her. So I apologize, Phil, that you had to sit with me on this episode. I hope my takes weren't too bad.
Phil, serious question. How do we feel about Bob Iger's comments regarding dialing back the output of Marvel movies when in the very next calendar year, 2025, they have 4 projects on the slate? Phil agrees with us that at least one of those, if not more, is getting pushed back. What do we think about these contradictory comments?
Iger is hard to read. I feel like, you know how there's those rumors that Paul McCartney died and he got replaced by someone else? That's sometimes I feel
Yes.
like Iger, where he felt very different before he left, and then when he got back, I feel like he's a different guy. Now, people probably argue, which is probably the truth, that he was always that guy. He just did a better job in the public of hiding it. But there's just even stuff like him being like, "Oh, you know what you have to do to have a hit movie is make good movies." That's the dumbest thing anybody says, because there are hundreds of movies that come out here that are great, that bomb, that no one sees.
Nobody
Whatever.
sees.
Yeah, because it's just like you just talked about, same thing to me. I have kids, you have kids. People got to make choices, right? And if you're gonna go out, you can't see everything. Like, you talk about Dune coming out a couple of years ago. Denis Villeneuve put out Blade Runner 2049, critically praised, fans praised, hailed as like one of the greatest sci-fi movies. It just like got destroyed at the box office. It made no money. It like I think it was Warner Bros. Released it. It cost them a lot of just cachet. So the whole good movies, it helps. I think a good movie definitely is a good starter. I think a good movie gives you legs, but to get people in the door, it's not that. So the output thing, I agree with that, but it is still like, you have 3 shows, or 3 movies, you still are gonna have some shows. I think you could even make a case that you could make it just 2 movies next year. So it's tough because a lot of this stuff was in production beforehand, right? Agatha, Ironheart, Wonder Man, like, in the movement before he got
Ironheart
back.
allegedly is finished. So.
Yeah, and then you got the 3 movies. So I think it is an odd comment to say, and that's the first thing I would ask them, but I don't think anyone's going to ask them that. They're going to like play nicely. So even 3 movies, that's still, I would consider a lot, considering we had, like 3 Marvel movies and 3 DC movies, and Marvel's and Ant-Man didn't do the greatest, right? So you could you could have that chart of, hey, last year we had 3 and only 1 did really, really well. So
Yeah, and Iger would say, I'm not worried about like when we say scaling back, I'm not talking about comparing to what the other studios do. So if DC's putting out 3 movies, well, that's on them. Like, yeah, it is, but you also got to take into account that there's only so many superhero dollars around right now, right?
Yeah.
And then general superhero media is down across both DC and Marvel, or the box office is down as a whole. And so they do need to take that into account. And I tell you, ever since Iger came back, we were all like, oh, that's great. Get Bad Bob out of there. And he just, in my opinion, just completely made the wrong move every chance he could in regards to the strikes. And it kind of just hosed them. And at this point, I agree they need to scale back. I agree it's contradictory. It's like they took 2024 and they absolutely did scale back. One movie this year plus some Disney Plus shows. They probably should push 2 of the movies next year to the following, especially if Spider-Man ends up coming out. But they probably should push 2 of them. Not that I'm not excited to see Thunderbolts or Cat 4 or Fantastic Four, but I would push back Fantastic Four, because at this point they haven't started production on it. So why effectively rush it? Yeah. Push it back. Obviously, Blade's not happening. I mean, I'm not saying the Blade itself movie, but we'll talk about that later. But it's not happening next year. So push those back and, spread them out a little bit. I'd be fine with that. And besides, there's no I know people say there's plenty of space with 2 weeks in between Superman and Fantastic Four. But frankly, you don't need to. You just don't need to put them against each other when you effectively have to at least somewhat rush to get Fantastic Four to make that date.
And because I still think, especially now, we've seen, you can have an argument that someone will say, I'm going to see Superman, and not go F4 like money wise, or vice versa. If I'm going to skip Superman and see Fantastic Four, because if I'm going to make one trip out to the theaters this month, you have to pick. It's not like it was in like I call the golden era of 2016 to 2019, where if you put out a comic book movie, no matter what it was, people were going out to see it. Maybe not all of them were a billion, but they're all making tons of money for the most part, right?
A lot of people were going 2-3 times to each of them.
Right. So that's the thing. I agree with you. Yeah, I didn't think about Fantastic Four. And I also think that hopefully this is some mindset they have, that I hope it's not, don't race to get to Secret Wars in the sense of, if you still got to delay that a couple years, do it. Yeah, don't do that. Well, we got to get to Avengers, so we got to get these 4 movies that we got to say. Like, of course, the MCU is built on the continuity and everything, but it's not going to go well if you throw it through a windshield. Like, take your time. You know, I think it's like, I can't remember what it was. There was a C tier rumor, and I hope it was true. It's what we've always said. There's a rumor that they've been rejiggering stuff, and there's been talks of doing a smaller Avengers movie first. It's like,
I think that was in the Hollywood Reporter.
I think it was too then, because and I think, like, I'm hoping they did sit back and go, you know what? Why are we rushed? Like, why do we have to get to Secret Wars? Knock on wood, of course, life happens, right? We saw Chadwick Boseman. You never know what happens. So I could kind of get after that, the mentality of, you got to do everything quick because life is short, which it is. But at the same time, if that sacrifices putting too much stuff out and it's not that good, don't do it. And I think we're all on the bandwagon here at Marvel Alliance that just do a smaller Avengers movie first as well, because then that's like a nice little breather. You could do that, then that to me buys you at least 3 years before you have to do Secret Wars or Kang Dynasty, whatever it's going to be called, because then it's like, okay, we have an Avengers, a big event movie, here we go. So.
Last question from Jim. Since Taika won't be returning for Thor 5, how would we feel about Sam Hargrave getting a shot, considering his history with Marvel and directing the Extraction films?
So I do have a Fact or Fiction, something similar about this, but it's not that. So good thing you didn't spoil it, Jim. But I think it's possible, because it could be the thing of, you know, Chris and him work well together. I think they are going to go the reverse again, almost more to Thor 1, where they're going to go not uber serious, but very serious. I think they're going to have some time, like from Thor, of course there's time, but from Thor Love and Thunder and Thor 5, if it happens, they'll have lots of time in between, and something bad or something dark will happen to the character to switch it. So Hargrave is a more serious director, so we have that. So that would fit. So I don't know. I didn't love the Extraction film, so for me, it would be a meh, but I don't think it's not possible. So,
I thought the Extraction movies were fun. I enjoyed them. For lack of a better phrase, they felt like a John Wick type movie that's not as good as the John Wick movies. Yeah. It's the best way I can describe. But you know, I think Extraction 3 is happening, and I will happily watch it. I am not opposed to Sam Hargrave getting a shot at the MCU at all in general. He's already, like, we've already seen his work there. I mean, he's been a stunt coordinator. He's been a second unit director. He's been a fight choreographer. Like, he's worked across several different Marvel projects, including several Marvel projects that I personally love. So I would not be opposed to it. I don't know. I think it's a good call out. I hadn't considered him for Thor 5. It does seem to be somebody that, as far as we know, Hemsworth appreciates working with. They have a long history together. So yeah, you know what? I'm down with the idea. And likely it would take Thor in a different direction. And we know Hemsworth is in favor of mixing up the direction of Thor. He wanted to do that after the first couple Thor movies. There's been some comments that he's wanted to do it again after the last couple Thor movies. Like, if that's what he wants to do, I'm in favor of it.
And we've seen that before. Like, look at Michael Giacchino. He did a bunch of scores, then he directed. Last month or so, there was rumors from people that he's being talked about for the Midnight Suns movie and stuff. So it's that kind of similar trajectory where you have a big history with the people. You know, they work well. So I don't think it's that. I think you're talking about likelihood, if you were to make a top 5 contenders list, I think he would be in that top 5 contenders list. So.
All right. Fact or Fiction. Let's go over last week's results real quick, and then we'll see what you have to offer us. These were Travis Hines, by the way. Professor X will return by the end of X-Men 97. 94% fact.
Just repeated my Fact or Fiction from the last time I was on, but that's okay.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is why it seemed familiar to me, and I had to fact check it when I was like, wait, was that right? Next one, a Marvel hero will cameo in at least one episode of X-Men 97.
I hope this is true because they did that multiple times in the X-Men. I think that'd
Hmm.
be very cool, even if it is just the classic like showing one character. So I feel like it's gonna be I think it's a fact. My heart wants it, and my brain wants it because I think they're showing that they're trying to stay very close to the original show and that did it there. So I hope it happens. I'll be a little disappointed if it doesn't.
Well, the audience agrees with you because they're 100% fact.
100%?
100% fact.
Wow.
Yes, 100%
Okay.
fact. Everybody thinks it's happening.
I'm not that
Um,
strong on it. That's a big one. Okay.
and then Apocalypse will appear in the second season of X-Men '97. That got a 76%. Where are you at with that? Fact on that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, okay, for second season fact, I think there's even a chance he shows up here. He could be a season 1 stinger, like at the end to like introduce your next threat. Like Apocalypse pops up a lot. He's tied to Sinister, so I think he'll for sure be in 2. He could easily appear in number 1 as well. So,
I should know this. I just watched it all, but I think he appeared at least once in every season.
yes.
So
Yeah.
I absolutely think yes, he'll appear in season 2, but I think he's likely to appear in season 1 as well.
Yeah, he's just especially for that series, like Magneto was their key villain, but really when you watch that whole series, it really shifts to Apocalypse as the bigger threat the whole
There was
time.
like a
you know?
long gap without Magneto in that
Yes.
too for a while, and so and some of my favorite episodes involve Apocalypse.
Yeah, and even the season that Magneto's around for a bit in the Savage Land, it's like he's on our screen, but he's not a threat to the X-Men that time. He's gone for months not fighting them. So
Yeah, and he has no powers, and
yeah, so I insinuate Apocalypse as the main baddie on that show. So I think you'll see him. So all right, so my fact or fiction. So let's do this one because I had this, and then I had this before Jim asked about. Good thing he didn't, like I said, step on any toes. I'm asking this. Thor 5 will be confirmed this year. So I'm not saying Scooper, C tier, this, that. I'm saying whether it is a D23 Comic Con, a press release, they're going to confirm that Thor 5 is happening. My thought is maybe production could be started. They're meeting with directors, stuff, and it's going to get out there. So let's just confirm that we're at least working on it. It doesn't have to be, hey, it's out 2026 July, just kind of the same way that Ironheart is dated right now, or War Machine is being lied to us that it's dated. Well, it's not even dated. So that's what I'm saying. Thor 5 will be confirmed this year.
yeah, I'm gonna say fact on this. And it's been a couple years. Thor: Love and Thunder came out in July of 2022, so we're coming up on a couple years since the last Thor movie, and then it presumably would take another year or two coming out. I could see like a 2027 release date maybe, but in general, yeah, I think they'll confirm it. Like this feels like a relatively easy announcement to make at one of the two this year: San Diego Comic Con, D23, one of those two. So yeah, I'll go fact.
And this isn't part of my fact or fiction, but do you think they would not be so heavy-handed with it, but really allude to this is going to be Hemsworth's last go around here? And I'm not saying he wouldn't be Avengers stuff, but would that kind of maybe be the selling point that this is the final go, or do you think they don't even want to be that official and stamp it? It'll just be a Thor 5.
I don't think that would happen because it doesn't gain them anything at the
Yeah.
initial announcement. By the
That's
time
fair,
the movie
yeah.
releases, yes, I would anticipate that.
They'll play that up. But okay, yeah, I tend to agree because I feel like you get more people butts in the seats of, oh, it's Chris's last time. Let's go see that. So, okay, so speaking of where it could be announced, I'm asking this question because this week there's a lot of scuttlebutt. I'm sure the DC boys will cover it. Where James Gunn was asked, "Hey, you're going to be at Comic Con?" And he said, "Well, I'll be shooting," and everyone took that as DC won't be at Comic Con. That's literally not what he said. So who knows what's happening with DC and Comic Con? But that begs the question because we were talking about it: will Marvel skip Comic Con this year? Fact or fiction? I want to get it out there for the people to
Well,
officially
you
start
asked a
putting
yes
it
or
out.
no question, so you need to say Marvel will skip it.
Oh,
or
sorry,
Marvel
yeah.
won't skip it. Not to jeopardy you, but
Marvel will skip Comic Con in 2024.
Marvel will skip
Fact
it.
or fiction?
All right,
Yeah.
I'll say fiction. I think they're going to be there. I
Okay.
don't, like we talked about the other day. I don't think it's 100% lock, but I think they have enough stuff that they can do, that they can show, even if it's a relatively small slate update and then just some footage, and then they could basically repeat that at D23. Yes, I do think they'll be there. I don't think it'll be, let's say, as large as the presentation we got in 2019, for example.
I don't think we're ever getting one of those for a long time.
I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, and especially because there were those rumors that Feige didn't love all that rollout. I don't think you ever will. I think even Investors Day, that was a little bit different because that was like COVID, and I feel like that was like kind of a little bit just trying to boost some morale, right? Of just like get people excited for stuff that we can't show you movies and stuff right now. Well, they tried with Black Widow, but you know what I mean, right? There was just a general lull in the entertainment world. So hey, let's announce a bunch of cool stuff and get people excited for Marvel when we can't put stuff out. Because I phrase it as they will skip. So I'm a fiction as well, but I am not a strong fiction. I'm to the fiction point where next week, if we woke up for a notification saying they're skipping it, I would not be surprised at all, because it is one of these years where they have D23. And to your point where they say it might be a smaller one, it could be a thing where if they feel it's so small, they might go, oh, we don't have enough to cover both of them. And I think if they had to pick, they would in favor go to D23 because it's not annual and it is their own thing. Maybe they give like a trailer out, or they do like some TV show panel, like the Daredevil panel, the Daredevil cast goes to Comic-Con, like something like that maybe. But I could see if a Marvel Studios panel not happening and being skipped, just because Deadpool's going to already be out at that time. There could be like a Deadpool screening, but I don't count that if it's not a panel. So they could do something fun like that. But Deadpool's already going to be out at that point. The next project, I guess, might be like an Agatha or a Daredevil. The next project's not Cap until February, right?
Yeah.
That's still, a long ways off. So
they have those, possibly What If Season 2, because we don't know how, or What If Season 3, we don't know how far in development that is. Agatha, Thunderbolts is in production. Some sort of Fantastic Four panel potential. Like, they have enough that they can do it without rolling out a giant slate. Also, wouldn't surprise me, if they just announced the next Avengers movie. But because it's probably not King Dynasty anymore, so wouldn't surprise me terribly if that came out.
And that's true. If they are actually, and I don't believe it, but all these C2 scoopers keep saying, oh, end of the year, they're going to start shooting Avengers. I don't believe this for a second. But if they are, then I could see that would be a very fun event to unveil the roster, like they did at that event for Avengers, the very first one. You don't even have to announce much. Just like, here's your 6-7 main characters. You get Anthony Mackie there. Like, it's just a hype session, right? So I'm fiction, but I don't think it's out of their own possibility. And then my last one, so this is me living in the world that, let's say, John Watts doesn't get the Spider-Man 4 gig. Spider-Man 4 director will be a first-time Marvel director. I'm throwing this out because there was rumors of like, oh, well, Drew Goddard might be doing it, but he's directed Daredevil. So I'm saying TV, Disney Plus, Netflix, Marvel, whoever directs Spider-Man 4 will not be someone that's done a Marvel project in the past.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of people that have worked on Marvel at this point.
Right? That's why I'm a fiction. I feel like it's going to be someone in the ballpark, and I feel like if they don't get John Watts, I feel like Sony and Feige are going to still want to agree on somebody that is like in the realm, like the Sam Hargrave thing, where it's like someone we trust, someone that's done something. I'm not saying Sam Raimi or anything like that, but something to that equivalent. So and even like Drew Goddard, to me that makes sense, right? Like, did Daredevil, he's been in writer rooms, he's been rumored for this and that, and he almost directed Sinister Six, he almost directed X-Force. He's done a bunch of stuff that was very close. So I'm saying fiction, even though there's part of me that would like it to be fact, because I'd love to see like get some new blood in there and give someone a shot that's never done it before and see what happens. I actually would prefer if we get another Spider-Man trilogy, I would love it if they took the Star Wars original trilogy route and a different director did each one. But I'm going to say it's a fiction. They will get someone with some Marvel cred on there.
Did you just mention Sean Levy as a possibility?
No, but that's not a bad choice either.
I thought, I was like, did I hear you say that? Like, I kind of like that. Obviously, I guess we need to see how Deadpool Wolverine shakes out. But I kind of like
Spider-Man. That's one of the three. Give me that movie. I need them to interact.
I kind of like that idea. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and say, okay, so it will be somebody who's never directed Marvel. Correct?
Yeah, the question is director, first time Marvel director.
I'm gonna say fiction, but I'm not feeling super strong. Maybe 55, 60% in that realm. Again, the Marvel bench is so deep of people who have directed a project with a Marvel logo.
Yes.
That it
could even be like one of the Disney Plus people, right? Like we hear, who's that duo that they worked on Loki and Moon Knight, and now they're working on
Daredevil Born Again.
Something Moorhead and
Benson and Moorhead.
Benson and Moorhead. Yeah, it could even be someone like that, right? Of hey, we want to give these guys a crack. We really trust them. Look at their track record with Loki, Moon Knight. These are things people like. How about we have them do Spider-Man, right? So it could even be someone like, look at Matt Shagman, right? Same thing. He did WandaVision, and then he's getting the big boy project of like, now you're doing It doesn't get any bigger. You're rebooting the Fantastic Four. Good luck. Like, like don't screw up. So that you got to remember all these Disney Plus shows. There could be someone that they have their eye on that they want to give a crack for. But that's why I want to ask it, just because I feel like, if we get Spider-Man news, a director would come with that. So
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah.
And again, that'll come from Sony. It'll be like a press release or something.
yeah. So I want to get it out there before we get some news on it. So.
All right. Well, Comic Book Club is paused until next week when Chris comes back. We'll be doing, I guess, part 3 of Old Man Logan.
Oh yeah.
So again, check out Organic Price Books as our sponsor. Remember, Marvel GUA is the code to save $2 off your order. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. I am at Brentech Prime on Twitter, on Threads. I'm still on Threads more, but that's where I'm at. Chris is at Chris Balga. Travis, where are you at?
Traspy Snail. I one day plan to hopefully soon get more back on Threads and revive that account. It's on there. It's not deactivated. I will get back there, but
what's your handle on there? I tried looking.
It's the exact same thing. I think I'll go back on there and follow you.
I must add a typo then.
Yeah, so I'll go back there. But yeah, follow me there. Once my film, which comes out next week, if you like film and like me at all, give it a shot. There'll be a rental. Adrenochrome's coming out March 15th on Patreon. There'll be links and everything that week. But after that's out, I'm gonna be focused on a lot more podcast stuff and things like Thread, so maybe I'll be back on there. But yeah, just talking about that and stuff. So yeah.
You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. Follow the GUA network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet or email us or provide fact or fictions. Send in your questions or DM. Chris's DMs are open. My DMs are open. You don't have to wait till I put out a message asking for them. You can just send them. I'll add them to the list. And of course, don't forget to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcast or whichever platform you are listening on. Thank you for listening, and Excelsior, true believers. All right, Travis, let's go back and read. Let's read Anthony's question.
Yes.
Yesterday, Bob Iger said that they quietly killed some projects. What Marvel projects do you think could have been affected by this? Personally, I think Armor Wars and possibly Wonder Man are dead. All right, so that's the setup. Now, what you don't know, Anthony, is Travis and I routinely on a regular basis have fun little debates of is Armor Wars a real movie or a fake movie? So, it's fake. So right there, that tells you who's on what side of this. In all seriousness, what do you think? Do you think Marvel is affected by these comments from Iger? And do you legitimately really think Armor Wars is happening or it's canned?
So I think it is affected. I think there's stuff like we've heard rumors of this project, that project. That's always the tough thing when you get the C tier stuff of, like I've heard a Ghost Rider movie. If something like that was true, I could see, there's one you just cut and go with. So I guarantee you it is affected. It might just be projects that we didn't get to hear about, right? With Armor Wars, of course, I more just play it up as the joke of it's a fake movie, it's not real. But I'm on the sense of we still have never, as we've talked about before, it's never been on a slate. When we get those Comic-Con things, it's never been in the queue of...
It was on a slate, just I don't think it never had a date.
Yeah, it never was dated, I guess. Yeah, that's what I should say. And that's where it's just like it was out there in ether. It was a show into a movie. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's just that I could see this one, and it'd be interesting because as you've brought up before, they've never canceled a project that was announced. Even like you said, the biggest example is
Inhumans, asterisk next to that.
Yeah,
but it became a TV show.
So it still came out, and that was a situation where Feige didn't want to do that movie. He, that was an Iger or not Perlmutter. That was a Perlmutter thing. Yeah. So they've all come out. So this would be a history-breaking thing. So I know history is definitely stacked against me, but if there is anything, I just feel like it's Armor Wars because I think it depends on next year. But if you're asking me as a fan, sure, I'll take it, even though my interest in that character is an all-time low after Secret Invasion. I think they fumbled a lot there, and I think we still got to get some answers about the Skrull stuff. But if you're asking me for my business hat, I just look at the Marvels and I look at Ant-Man Quantumania, and I just don't see how you can say Armor Wars, which I don't think will be a cheap movie, is something you should make. And I feel like if there was a discussion about anything that's been announced, I think it's definitely centered on Armor Wars. I just feel like Iger would look at that case, especially because I love Don Cheadle, but he's not like an A-tier star. I feel, as I've said for a while, if this movie does happen, it's going to get a lot of chutzpah put on it, supporting characters, other MCU factors. That would be the only way. But on paper, I don't think it's a good idea. And for me as a fan, I'll take it. But my worry is the more films that come out for Marvel and DC that don't do well, then the less films we start to get, because the companies will view these as risks. They'll move on to something else, and we'll go back to an era where it's just Batman and Spider-Man, which I don't want, because there's many great characters, right? So that's always my worry of like the business side. The fan side, I'll be there. I saw Madam Web. I'm gonna see every comic book film, Marvel and DC, that comes out because I wanted that my whole life. But I think there's a chance it could affect announced stuff and it would really just be Armor Wars, but I think it definitely impacted stuff that's not been publicly known about. Same thing as like we said before of, hey, if they were going to do a Young Avengers movie, there's a chance they went to that and go, let's kind of reverse, let's not do a movie, let's do a show. Like I think
scale it back. Yeah.
Exactly. I think there's tons of those they wouldn't scale back. Even like Midnight Suns, I know there's still rumors about those, but like I'm not really confident about that movie coming out because I feel like that'd be another scale back one of like, let's just get Blade out first and see what happens. So
they need to get Blade out first see, because Blade would obviously be the frontliner or the headliner for that. Armor Wars, I could see it going back to a TV show, and they've done that before because Hawkeye was originally like going to be a movie, and then they never announced it, but they've said Hawkeye was originally basically conceived as a movie that they switched to the TV show. The thing with Armor Wars is, you're right, Don Cheadle isn't like, he's not Robert Downey Jr., right? But he is definitely somebody that like he pops up in any project, any movie, TV show. People know him, people like him. He has a pretty good reputation. People feel maybe like Rhodey isn't anybody's, I can't say anybody, but in general, he's not someone's favorite Marvel character or favorite MCU character, but he's pretty well liked. You know, there weren't too many people too upset when he became our War Machine with Iron Man 2 going forward. Yeah. And at this point, he's been a long time. I mean, that was 2010, I think that came out. He's played this part for a long time. Absolutely, Secret Invasion did some damage. They can wipe that out by simply saying, well, that was Rhodey from a different time. Personally, I would say it was Rhodey from after Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like all they have to do is do that. They can fix that continuity up and they can make it work relatively easily, and fine. Then you can wash your hands of Secret Invasion and move forward. And the thing is, they don't have an Iron Man right now. I know they're coming out with Ironheart eventually, but that is also from the same mold. Both of these can kind of combine, fill that Iron Man hole, if you will, where people just want to see the cool armor and the stuff like that. War Machine's armor has that more practical look. Obviously, there's a lot of mocap there, but it's more practical looking than what Iron Man's was at the end of his tenure. People like those effects. I think they would still do it. They got to figure out how to keep the budget down. So yes. I do think that's happening. The other example Anthony gave was Wonder Man. That's still in production. Like right now, that's in production. So no, I don't think that's dead. But I think there's a non-zero chance that Blade never happens, which is a miss. If that's the case, but it's been since summer 2019 since that movie was announced, and everyone seems to forget the part where it was never Marvel's idea.
Yeah,
Ali went to him, and they're just like, "Yeah, we'll work with you again." Of course, you were with us on Luke Cage for 6 episodes or whatever it was, but we'll work with you again for sure. And at this point, that movie has been in development hell. I want to see it. I'm very interested to see it. I like the Blade character. It's always fun to watch Blade, dust a bunch of vampires. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not calling for it. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And if that movie doesn't happen, kiss Midnight Suns goodbye. Like, kiss Midnight Suns goodbye. Absolutely. Scaling back other projects, we mentioned it earlier, but special presentations. There hasn't been a hint of anything else regarding those. I really like the format. I hope we haven't seen the end of it. And I'm not going to say never, but in the next 2 or 3 years, I don't think we're getting any.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I agree full-heartedly that if Blade were to go away, you would see Midnight Suns in a decade from now, longer than. Like, it'd be something that they'd kick way, way down the road and say, let's just shelve this project and try again another time, because Werewolf by Night was just a special feature, and there's not been many other really horror-based monster movie type of characters, right? It's not like they're building that up. So I do agree that they could look at that and just kind of go, not worth our time. Let's move away from it. So
okay, well, with that, we will see you next week.